Early in the 2000s, James Pickford published through the Financial Times a text entitled Mastering Risk. It was a compilation of articles, and one of the early ones in that book is by Peter L. Bernstein, and it's entitled The Enlightened Men Struggle Against Uncertainty. And within this piece, Bernstein reminds us of a broad range of activities that come under this umbrella term of risk. Depending on what work you do, what area of work you're involved in, we could be thinking about financial risk, operational risk, brand or reputation risks. On a grand scale, there are natural disasters, while on a smaller scale, there's individual human behaviours influenced by their decisions. We also don't work in isolation. We work within systems, and there are risks embedded in those as well. We're invited to follow particular procedures. They also may incur some risks. And ultimately, we form relationships, positively or sometimes not so positively. And there are risks very much involved in that activity as well. Now, depending on what area of work you're in, no doubt you can drill down into much more detail about the types of risks that are relevant to you, to your occupation, to your work. For example, in my background of health and social care, particularly mental health and also brain injury case management, some of the risks would include suicide risk, self-harm, neglect, aggression and violence, sexually inappropriate behaviour, a range of very specific risks as well relating to the person, the situation they're in, the decisions they're making. Another comment that Peter L. Bernstein mentions in his paper is the view that we can reach out into the future to bring it under control. Perhaps one of the most audacious advances in the history of humanity. Therein lies one of those challenges with the whole idea of risk assessment, that this is somehow a way in which we predict the future, and that by predicting it, we are able to exert more control to try and prevent many of those risks happening. I'll be focusing on that challenge quite a bit in this module. So module 2 is entitled Working with Risk, and this is a working title that I adopted many years ago when I published manuals under that title back in 2007. And I adopted that term because, well, it says what it does on the tin. We work with risk every day. We assess risk, we manage risk, we take risks, we avoid risks. We are working with risk. A key component that underpins my concept of positive risk taking is a very clear recognition and a very clear articulation of what the underlying risks are. That's what we would normally refer to as good risk assessment. Again, whatever field you're working in, whatever occupation, you all need to make difficult decisions from time to time. And you do require quality information in order to do so. The task that faces all of us, therefore, becomes one of assessing and also evaluating the information that is actually available to us. And there's another problem. We actually operate within an imperfect world, one where we do not necessarily have access to complete, or even on occasions, accurate information. Yet we still have to make some decisions. This is a world that has increasingly become one of applying the spotlight of intense scrutiny when decisions go wrong. Kicking in that notion that I referred to back in Module 1 about the blame culture. This is a complex world where those who make the decisions are often subject to scrutiny and regulation by those who are more tasked with management than the actual delivery of decisions and the actions themselves. This is a place where too often opposing worlds of practical application on the one side, bureaucratic administration on the other, can often collide. And the result of this coming together is not always directly beneficial in supporting the task of compiling the most accurate of risk assessments. Now, before moving on to the next video, I'm just going to ask you to spend a few moments reflecting on your position. What are the most significant risks that you routinely work with? What risk assessments are expected to be completed by you in the work that you do? How effective are these risk assessments for guiding and supporting your risk decision making?